Is your life coach Peenal again. आज का topic है balancing tradition and modernity. Now, what are we going to understand? What are we going to talk? We all know that we all have traditional values. We are all modern. How do we balance? And this we're going to discuss with the day-to-day lifestyle in mind, because we all have something that is very traditional. Like we call it, like I come from a traditional thought process, and some people say I'm very modern in my thinking. So what exactly is modern? What exactly is tradition? Let us understand and evolve and make it more healthier and happier for our well-being. So tradition is nothing but a set of customs, beliefs, practices that are passed from generation to generation in a community, in society, or in a family. Now, we all used to have a joint family, right? Great grandparents, grandparents, parents, they all used to live big houses they had, and they used to stay together. And that is how, in India especially, joint family was the practice or the way people used to live. And now it's a different scenario altogether, which is what we call as modernization or modernity. Modernity is what? It's the time that is characterized by changes that depart us from the way of traditional living. Now, today we don't find many joint family. We don't find a joint family culture here. Even in India, we find nuclear setup, because that is something that is helping. Now, how does one decide whether you want to be modern, you want to be traditional? How do you blend it? And on what basis do you take the decision whether I should remain traditional in some aspects, or I should adapt to that modernity? Now, there are very various factors we will be discussing today. And let us first focus on the key points or the key aspects of tradition. Why is being traditional or the traditional aspect in our life important? वो क्यों जरूरी है? Because it creates a sense of bonding. Have you ever noticed? I'm sure you would have observed in joint family culture, especially when there are festivals and functions, you see that bonding is very visible. You see that bonding happening, as compared to what it is in nuclear families. So when you go with the traditional thought process, that bonding is very strong, and it enhances your well-being. It makes you feel happy. Children, they have their siblings, they have their cousins, and the bonding is very strong. Plus, it gives you a sense of belonging, that you belong to this family or you belong to this community. You also have communities, where the bonding is very strong. They perform certain functions or certain rituals together. Even if you see, I wouldn't get into religion, but yes, even in Christianity, if you see, they have a tradition of going to church every Sunday for mass. So that's a very beautiful tradition. They still follow. So that compels or that disciplines them to pay a visit to the church every Sunday. So these are some of the key points or key aspects that keep and make people happy while following their tradition. In Hindus also, they have, like, if there are any festivals or any auspicious days, they go to the temple, they perform puja, or whatever their ritual is, and that creates a big bonding between them. Similarly, it is for any other religion. It is just not confined to Christians or Hindus, temples and churches, but every religion you're following, there would be some tradition or some ritual that is passed on from your fathers, forefathers, and it has been continued, and it is creating that bonding or that belonging feeling in you. So these are some of the key aspects that tradition has still maintained and retained. Now, as compared to modernity, what does it mean? Modernity has brought so much of changes. It is more based on scientific, logical thinking, the changes that we have brought in, industrialization, urbanization, you say, structural changes, secular changes, the way we think, the way we live, the way we decide. Now religion doesn't dictate the terms we have to live. There are some minus points of tradition religion as well, right? The sati system we had earlier, or child marriages. Now, they were very prevalent and very dominant earlier times. Now, those practices are no more in force. Modern times, that is not practical and people will not want to follow. So there are some traditions or some aspects of traditional values that we have, it is nice that we have discarded them, like the child marriage and sati system, and you know, so many compulsions and so many conditions on women. Basically, I mean, some traditions were very strict with women and women empowerment, and this modernization or this secularism has really helped us get rid of that. So you have to see the blend of both. Now, when we talk about balancing, how does one balance being traditional also and being modern also? Now, let us understand what does balancing of tradition and modernity means in very simple language. It is nothing but you know, it is a dynamic process. Let us understand, it is a dynamic process which requires thoughtfulness, flexibility, and adaptability. One needs to be flexible to adapt new things in life. Only then you can bring that modernity aspect in your life. You can still continue to be traditional in your thought process on some aspects of your life, but yes, if you want to bring some modernity in your life, you have to be flexible, especially the parents, you know. Parents have to be a little more flexible, more adaptable, and more open to what children want these days. That is where, you know, we generally hear that generation gap. Generation gap is nothing but the difference in the thought process of what parents think is right and what children today think is right. Now, parents possibly they could be more on the traditional thought process, and the children could be more on the modern thought process. That's where the gap comes in. So the generation that we are in, we have to listen to our parents, we have to listen to our children also. So we are in that middle, we are that bridge. So we have a huge responsibility. We have to bring in the balance between the parents and the balance between the children. We have to listen to both and bring them together to create that bonding and that belonging factor in our family, in our community. So that's a huge responsibility. And it is finding meaningful integration and sustainable integration that aligns with your values and enhances your well-being. It is very important when whether it is a traditional belief that you're going by, living by, or a modern belief. You each one has his or her own core value system. So whatever you're adapting, it has to align with your well-being, align with your core value. And end of the day, what are we doing? Whatever we are doing, whether it is workplace, whether it is family, why do we do things? For a well-being, right? For being happy. So when we are following any particular lifestyle, whether it is traditional, modernity, whatever it is, it has to make us happy. It has to enhance our well-being. It cannot be that, you know, we are forced to follow some practices and end of the day we feel miserable. It doesn't work. I mean, if you still recall in some movies, it is still shown, you know, women after marriage they were required to cover their head, that ghungat thing. Pehle bahut ghungat dalte the. The women are not supposed to show their face to outsiders. Now women used to follow that, but do you really think they were really happy or comfortable doing that? No, they weren't, which is where they rebelled, and you know, new practices came in, and they, what we are today, we don't adhere to it until unless we want it. So there are certain practices that we have changed for good, and there are certain practices which we have changed, but I wouldn't comment whether good or bad. Now, a very simple example is the dressing style, right? Today, women dress according to what they like. Now, I wouldn't comment that what you're doing, the way you dress up is right or wrong. But if you see people passing some comments, and the elders in the family may try to be little, you know, strict, or we may want to modify your way of dressing up. Today, girls may not openly be okay with it. They may not agree to it. There are many reasons, and I don't want to get into that reasoning and what is right, what is wrong. But if you think that what your parents are saying, or what the traditional thought process and why it emphasizing on dressing up in a particular way, in a particular situation, or on a particular occasion or a place, again, you know, you have to dress up as per the place. You cannot wear something that is you know, not acceptable in that particular situation or place. Then you will have people pointing out fingers or your elders objecting it. So these things you need to keep in mind, and then yes, continue with what you're living, continue with your lifestyle. There's nothing right or wrong. It's, yes, it's your life, your decision, and your freedom. But keep in mind few parameters or few points that will bring happiness to you and your near and dear ones. That is, I think, is important. Now let's get into what are the points or what are the parameters one should consider, or how can one attain the balance between these. As we just spoke about flexibility and adaptability. One cannot attain any balance, whether it is your work-life balance, your personal life balance, or whatever balance, without being flexible. If you are rigid that okay, the tradition what my father or my parents have followed is the right thing and my children have to follow that, if you have that rigid mindset, you will not be able to adapt new things, right? So you have to be flexible. Okay, those customs, those rituals, or those things were prevalent and doable at that point in time. Today it is not practical and it is not possible. Now, I remember when I was a child, I remember even in native towns, today also, they say in the evening, you should not sweep your floor. I remember my mother telling me that evenings may don't sweep your floor. And there was some very good reason. Uh, I mean, if you look at it, what could be this? If you go into the logical thinking, today we do that, right? If we have guests, or even if you don't have guests, and if you are OCD, if you're cleanliness freak, you will want to clean your house even in the evening before going to bed. You'll have to get it clean. So the reason could be that earlier days in the native towns and earlier days there was the electricity was not everywhere, right? It was not so illuminated. There was it would get darker after 6. So after 6, if you're sweeping the floor, there is a possibility something valuable can be swept out. That could be the logic, that could be the reason, we don't know. Today we have so many lights and bulbs, right? So we can easily sweep. So now if you tell that, okay, that was some tradition my parents followed and I want to continue with it, so be it. But then they had a reason. Now, nobody gave us that reason. Now we have to think through it and we can continue. So these are small things, small old traditions which we can continue, we cannot continue. And we have scientific reasons for it, because now a logical mind will always crave and ask for reasons for doing or not doing things. Children today are very adamant on that. And as parents, we have to be ready and willing to answer them. And we have to be flexible to listen to them. You cannot say what today's children are saying is wrong, what the modern ideas or the modern philosophy that they have about life and lifestyle is wrong. No, they are not wrong. Today they have access to so much. They have access to so many resources online. They get so much information, and so 60%, 80% of the information they get is right. So you need to understand and be flexible and find a midway. Okay, this is something that we need to continue following from a traditional way, and this is the modern part that we need to inculcate in our lifestyle. Because end of the day, everybody has to be happy, right? So very important to be flexible and adaptable. We have to be open to adaptability. You cannot be rigid. And another aspect of balancing is self-reflection. One needs to know what are my core values. Before even adapting any traditional value or taking any modern suggestion or more modern solution, one needs to understand, spend some time with himself or herself, reflect. What is it that makes you happy? What is it that you really want? Yeah? People may say that, today we see that live-in relations are very predominant. I mean, very many children are insisting for it. Many parents are okay with it. If your child is asking that he or she wants to get into a live-in relationship and you're not comfortable for whatever reason, so be it. You have your reasons. So self-reflect. What are the core values? If your core value doesn't permit your child to be in a live-in relationship before getting married, please convey it to your child. Make them understand, make them realize. Because what is happening is today, the patience and tolerance level of children has really come down, right? So if they are spending few years living together, a few months living in live-in relationship, where they have these the tolerance and patience levels are zero, they will break up, and then one or two such breakups will end up they concluding that marriages are not meant for me. This is not what you want for your child. That could be the reason as a parent you are insisting that don't get into a live-in relationship. But you need to understand, communicate. Communication plays an important role in adapting any kind of relationship, any kind of uh, whether it is professional or personal. As I said, this example of living, if that is your core value, if this is what you think, your core understanding or something that is very precious to you, please talk to your children. Please let them know the reason behind it. Even in your office scenario, if you think the methods that you have been working, the traditional methods, if you're comfortable and if you're able to yield results in that, but your company expects you to adapt some modern techniques, modern technology, or something different from what you have been following and getting results. So communicate to them, give them your validation, give them your reasons why are you sticking to those traditional values, and make them realize and understand, okay, even if I'm following the old rule book, I will get you the result that are expected of me. If that is communicated, if their support, take support from others, they will, I'm sure, whether it is your company or your family, they will support you. So open communication plays a very important role. Self-reflection plays a very important role. You need to know what you want in your life. It just can't be just go by what people are saying. Also, it is important that we don't bend to societal pressure. Many a times it is observed that though we don't agree to certain things, certain traditions, we just succumb, we just agree because there is so much of societal pressure. So mindful decision making plays a very important role. Whatever decision you're taking, if this more, I'll be talking more on the personal front, family front. So in your family or in your community or the society that you're closely knitted with, connected with, if you are forced to take certain decisions that don't align with your core values, you put your foot down. Not necessarily that everything you do, everybody will agree. So whatever decision you take should not have any negative effect on your well-being, because if you compromise on your values, my personal experience and my personal thinking is, if you compromise on your values, you'll be able to make people happy for some time, but that your happiness is being compromised on a daily basis. Every time you make someone happy by sacrificing or by compromising on your personal values, every day you're doing injustice to yourself. Don't do that. It is not worth it. So you have to be very thoughtful. I'm not saying that you always need to be rigid and not agree. No. And sometimes also re-evaluate. Are your personal values really true? Do you really think they are right? Because many a times our thought process is such that we become rigid. We get attached to what we think, what we value, and what we believe. Right? We're talking about beliefs, thoughts, and customs and all. So sometimes our attachment to our ideas is so strong, not knowing that our thoughts and beliefs are not completely correct. And with the passage of time, these thoughts and ideas do need that little change is required. So both the side, you have to analyze your values also. You need to continuous. It's a continuous process, as I said. It is not one day thing. Gradually, you may realize that some values that you held 10 years down the line are no longer your values, but because you have not evaluated, you have not thought through it, you still stick to it, and you make things very difficult for yourself and your family and your near and dear ones. So that is another important aspect that one needs to consider, because we are here to maintain that balance. Wherever there is imbalance, things will not be good. Things will not be fine. People around will not be happy. The whole idea of balancing anything in our life is to get that happiness ourselves, and people around us should be happy, and that's the end goal, right? We all want happiness, peace, prosperity, everything we need. And we also need to celebrate small milestones, whether it is identifying your value, identifying that you need to change your value, identifying that a small change that you have done, or a small change that you have helped somebody else do in your family to bring that balancing act in real. Those small milestones have to be celebrated. That boosts up your confidence, right? Because if you don't, you need to identify your strengths and all, right? I keep saying you need to identify your strengths. That brings your self-esteem. That creates self-esteem, and it brings up your confidence. So all these things play a very important role. Another aspect is seek guidance. Now, when it comes to again traditions and modern beliefs, see, we are not experts. If we have mentors, if we have elders in the family, it is important that we take guidance. We seek guidance from them. If there are few traditions or few customs that have been running in the family or in the community that we belong to, please go and talk to somebody who has the knowledge, gain knowledge. It is not that always what we think and we do and the information that we have is correct, right? So don't hesitate in seeking guidance from elders and mentors when it comes to understanding some traditions. Something you may not be comfortable, you may not be liking, but you will be surprised to know that when you went and spoke to someone elder about that particular tradition that you were not in favor, and after hearing that explanation or the reason, you would feel, okay, no, there is a reason why they did that. This especially happens in, when you have some pujas. They say that, some ancestral pujas you have to do, some rituals have to be done before a wedding ceremony, or some rituals during the year and all, or during Diwali festival especially. So today the children will, today modernity would say, no, there is no need to do this puja, no need to do that. But there is a reason. So if possible, speak to somebody elder in the family and understand the reason. Why are they insisting? Why it is important to do certain things on a certain day? Every day you cannot, but yes, on some auspicious day it is important. And also, just don't rule out. Take guidance wherever you think that you're not sure, or you're just skipping, everything. You're just trying to prove your point. Just pause and just slow down. Take guidance. It is nothing wrong. You don't become small. कोई छोटा नहीं हो जाता है. किसी बड़े से पूछ के ना, अगर पूछेंगे कि ये गलत है, सही है, क्या है, एक बार पूछ लिया, समझ लिया, आप ही अपना सोच चेंज कर दोगे. वो पॉसिबल है और बहुत ज्यादा पॉसिबल है. एंड वन थिंग इज, एक और बात हमें समझनी है कि ये जो चेंज होता है ट्रेडिशनल बिलीफ से लेके मॉडर्न बिलीफ तक, वो ग्रेजुअल है, वो कंटिन्यूअस है. What our parents thought, what our grandparents thought, what there's a difference between what they thought and what our parents thought. What our parents thought and what we have, the belief system, the custom that has been passed on, there has been a gradual change. So we also should be open and understanding towards that change. You cannot say things are not black and white. There are gray shades. So dwell in that gray shades of life. Dwell in the gray shades, you'll learn so much more. सब black and white नहीं होता है. The sun rises or sun sets, but during the day also there is some movement, right? The sun from one place to the other, it shifts. So there is some movement and there is some beauty and there is some reason. So understand life in that perspective. Whatever happens is a slow, gradual change, and you need to adapt to it. Balance your lifestyle. That is important. When we talk about traditional belief or modern lifestyle, we have to balance a lifestyle. You cannot be rigid all the time. Same way, you cannot be modern all the time. You have to have a blend of both, right? It can't be extreme. You cannot live an extreme life. Will you be okay if you always have, the extreme climates? Let's look at this. If you have extreme heat, if you have extreme cold weather, will you be happy? Will your body take it? Does a physical body adapt to extreme climates? No, we fall sick, right? I'm just talking about Bombay. If we have extreme heat here, people start falling sick. If there is extreme winter, if there is cold, people start falling sick. Why? Because the body is not used to these extreme climates and climatic changes. Same way, if we are on the extreme of traditional lifestyle or on modern extremity, we are, mind, body, or emotional body will not take it. There will be some imbalance. There will be some mental stress created. Yeah, I'm talking about the mental well-being. There will be some emotional stress created. So let's not get into that. Balance it. Why balance is important? Yes, because you don't want unrest, you don't want unstable, or you don't want those upheavals of emotions everywhere and every time in your life, which is where it is important that you balance and accept uh, accept other people's thought process. Diversity, there will be diversity when we're talking about two extremes, tradition and modernity. So you have to accept that people with different thought process, people with diversity, you have to accept their thoughts, you have to accept their customs also at some point in time. I mean, here again I'm getting into Indian family where two different cultures in a marriage. When two different families are getting their children married, there will be so much of difference in cultures and their rituals and all. If they take that extreme stand that what I say or what my custom is the right thing, I mean, things will not go well, right? So both of them have to be flexible. So be open to adapt to new customs, new rituals, new thought process, whether it is a different community, whether it is within your family, whether it is between your children and your parents. So you have to have that open mind. Don't be rigid. Don't stick to your own thought, and don't be so rigid to your idea. We say we get attached to human beings, we get attached to our children. No, we get attached to our ideas as well, which is the biggest harm we are causing to ourselves. And this we do it unknowingly. We don't know, we are not sure, we are not aware that we call it ego, right? Some people say that person has ego, so he's not budging from what he is saying. What is that? Ego is nothing but attachment to our idea or what we think is right. Same thing. If in a family, if there is a difference of opinion, any kind of customs or traditions, don't stick to that. Don't let that ego dwell, or don't let that ego rule you. Mellow down, be flexible, be adaptable. Again and again I'm repeating these words because it is important. बहुत जरूरी है हम flexible रहे लाइफ में. कोई भी चीज में अगर हमारी फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी होगी तो वी विल इम्प्रूव अ लाइफ स्टाइल. हम हमारी पूरी लाइफ की वेल बींग एनहेंस कर देते हैं. हमारे लाइफ जीने का तरीका बहुत अच्छा हो जाता है. वील हैव नो रिग्रेट्स, वील हैव अ नाइस स्ट्रेस फ्री लाइफ वी विल लिव. तो ये ट्रेडिशंस हो या मॉडर्न लाइफ हो, सी एंड ऑफ द डे वी हैव टू चूज के ट्रेडिशन जो पुराने बोलते थे, ओल्ड टाइप पेरेंट्स को fathers, उनका जो था लाइफस्टाइल, टेक समथिंग गुड फ्रॉम देयर, टेक समथिंग गुड फॉर द मॉडर्न थिंग, राइट? मॉडर्निटी भी इतना बुरा नहीं है. द न्यू लॉजिक और द न्यू साइंटिफिक रीजंस दैट दे हैव, टेक pros from both the sides and inculcate in your life without compromising on your values, without compromising on your core being. And it is not difficult, it's just a change of thought. It is just the way you think, the way you perceive the ideas and customs of other people. Look at it with an open mind. Everything is right, everything is wrong. I mean, it's just a change of perspective. So don't get so much rigid with what you are thinking or what you have followed for all these years. Be open to accept the change that life is bringing to you. Only then you will be able to lead a happy and blissful life. The whole idea is we want to be happy, right? We don't want those stress, anxiety. We don't need all that. Often it is found when during marriages and all, there is so much anxiety, there is so much of clutter. I mean, there is so much of chaos, stress and all between two families. Why? Because they're so rigid, they want to prove their point, they want their customs to be adapted. Children will want it in this way, parents will want it that way, the other party will want it that way. So just to make things slow down, be open, be flexible, and just go with the flow. Nothing is permanent, right? So how can our thoughts be permanent? Today what you're thinking, tomorrow for the same situation your thoughts will be different, because we all are different human beings. And our cells, we are human bodies made of innumerable cells, and these cells keep changing every day. They keep generating, regenerating. So our thought process also changes, which is where from a traditional belief we have come into modernity. Now let's take a pledge today, whether it is traditional thought process or modernity that we are adapting or we are inculcating in our life, we will ensure that it is aligning with our core values. It is not creating any chaos within. Reflect, self-reflect, identify what is it that you really want. At the same time, whatever we are implementing or whatever we are inculcating in our life should not even create any pressure to our near and dear ones, people outside, people with whom we are living or with whom we are working. Even they should not be disturbed. So take whatever you think is right from both the tradition and the modern thought process, and make your life easier and life of people around you easier. Yeah. So you have any questions on this, you can please message me, or you can always connect with me on my social media channels. And that's all for today. We'll meet up in the next week with a new topic. Yeah. See you.